This activity is called Love God and Love People. The purpose of this activity is for the kids to learn the 10 Commandments and how they can follow them by loving God and loving others. Now, what you're going to need for this activity is you're going to need your help sheet, you're going to need a Bible, and we've got in here in the Bible, I've already marked the verse that we're going to end with, which is Matthew 22, 37 through 40. Now, on your CD-ROM, you also have bookmarks. Now, these are bookmarks you want to give to the kids at the end of the activity, but go ahead and mark your verse there to have it ready. I've also got on the CD-ROM a list of the 10 Commandments. Now, what I did is I went ahead and I printed them off, I cut them into different sections, and I put tape on the back of each of them. You're going to need a poster board or some kind of foam board that you can mark 2 categories, love God and love people. Now, what you're going to do is you're going to have the kids go through the 10 Commandments and decide if they fall in the category of love God or if they fall in the category of love people. Watch, it looks something like this. All right, guys, today we're learning that to play on God's team, I have to follow His instructions. Well, throughout time, God has always given instructions to the people who chose to follow Him. To Moses, He gave 10 very special instructions that we call the 10 Commandments. Now, the 10 Commandments can fall into one of 2 categories. It can either be love God or love people. So what I've done is I've gone ahead and I've taken the 10 Commandments and I've separated them out. I got tape on the back of them, they're turned over. So one at a time, I want you to choose a card, pick it up, read it, and then decide, is it a love God or a love people commandment? All right, we'll start with Christina. Do not steal. Okay, what do you think? Do you think that involves loving God or loving people?
I think it involves loving God.
Okay. All right, Jennifer?
Do not misuse God's name.
Do not misuse God's name. What do you think that goes to?
Love God.
Love God. All right. Sean?
Honor your father and your mother.
All right, who do you think that goes to?
I think that's gonna love people.
Okay. Christina?
Do not testify falsely.
Oh,
I think that's love people.
love people. Okay.
Do not commit adultery. Love people.
Okay.
Do not murder. That's gonna be people.
Do not covet what belongs to someone else. Love people.
Keep the Sabbath holy. That's love God.
Okay. One more. Or 2 more, I'm sorry.
No God but God. That's stuff.
And last one, Christina.
No idols. I think that's
Okay, let's talk about why we chose certain categories. Let's start with no God but God. Sean, why did you think that was a love God?
Because it's dealing directly with God and not necessarily with people at all.
Exactly. The actual commandment is that we're not supposed to worship anything other than God. That's not anyone claiming to be God or any kind of object or anything like that. We're only supposed to worship God. So that's definitely a love God. Now let's look at love people. Honor your father and mother. Who picked that one? You did, Sean. Why would you say that honor your father and mother is love people?
Because it's talking directly about people.
That's right. You're exactly right. That God gave us our parents and their authorities in our life, and we are supposed to listen to what they say. That's how we honor our father and mother. Jennifer, what one did you pick?
Keep the Sabbath holy.
Keep the Sabbath holy. You think that's definitely a love God one, don't you?
Yeah.
That's right. We're supposed to set aside a day where we don't work and we choose to reflect on our life and reflect on what God's given us and worship God that specific day. So that is the Sabbath. All right, Christina, which one did you pick?
do not covet what belongs to someone else.
Oh, yes. Do not covet what belongs to someone else. Don't be jealous or envious or want something that someone else has. Exactly. That is a love people, because if we're all coveting and we want what someone else has, do we think very highly of them? Do we treat them nicely, or do we? No, we tend to focus on the object. We don't treat them well. So that's why God gave us that rule. You're going to want to go through the list of the entire commandments. On your help sheet is a very simple explanation for each one of them that will help the kids understand how that applies to their life today. When you're finished with the activity, say something like this. All right, you know, the Pharisees in Jesus' day, they were very, very serious about the commandments. They were so serious, in fact, that they made up a bunch of other rules that went with them. They didn't follow just 10 commandments. They followed literally thousands of rules. And when a teacher would come along, oftentimes the question they would be asked is, which commandment is the greatest commandment? Well, Jesus was asked that question, and he answered it in Matthew chapter 22, verse 37 through 40. And Jesus said, "You must love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your mind. This is the first and greatest commandment. A second is equally important. Love your neighbor as yourself. The entire law and all the demands of the prophets are based on these two commandments." So see, Jesus said we could sum up all the laws and all the prophets in the Bible with two simple rules: love God and love people. And what I've got for you guys today are some bookmarks. They got the 10 commandments on them. We've got the side over here that says love God, and then the side over here that says love people. And I want you to put these in your Bible or a book you might be reading and use them to help mark places in your books. Now remember that God gave us rules, but he didn't want to make it very hard to follow. He gave us two very simple rules to keep in mind when we treat people. It's to love God and love people. And all the rules in the Bible fall under those two categories.